A Sydney bartender who uploaded digitally altered images of dozens of women he knew to a pornography website alongside identifying details about them has been sentenced to 9 years in prison. Ruby Cornish was at the sentencing today and joins us here in the studio. Hi Ruby, what did the judge say?
Well, this was a pretty eventful day in court today, Lorna. This was the second day of the sentencing of Andrew Thomas Hayler, who is a 38-year-old bartender who pleaded guilty to 28 counts of using a carriage service to cause offence. Now, he was handed a sentence of 9 years in prison with a non-parole period of 5.5 years, which is a much larger sentence than most people involved in this case were expecting, certainly on the part of the victims and the police officers that were there today. Everyone was shocked by the length of the sentence. But in coming to her decision, Judge Jane Culver said she put a really high emphasis on general deterrence. The Crown had made a submission that Andrew Hayler's conduct was a vivid and dangerous illustration of the way violence could be perpetrated online, and the judge agreed with that assessment. Over a 2-year period, Andrew Hayler uploaded hundreds of photographs of 26 women, most of which he knew, to a now defunct pornography website, and they were accompanied by some really graphic descriptions of rape and violent assault, and he also published identifying details about these women, including their full names, their occupations, in some cases links to their social media profiles, and he sometimes encouraged other users of the website to contact these women and harass them further. This is obviously coming amid a rise in the number of cases that we're seeing involving, the non-consensual uploading of digitally altered, sexually explicit images. So some of the victims that I spoke to outside court today were talking about, maybe the judge was setting an example of Andrew Hayler in imposing such a sentence.
What did they say? Were they satisfied with what happened in court?
Look, the women, they were quite shocked, I think, by the sentence that were imposed. I've spoken to quite a few of them over the past few weeks, and they said that they were actually told not even to expect necessarily a term of imprisonment at all. This is quite a novel case. There's not really been a case like this of its kind before, so it was not really known what would happen. But certainly as I was sitting in court and the judge read out that sentence, when she said the words 5.5 years non-parole, there was an audible gasp in the courtroom. Some of the women burst into tears. A couple of them got up and hugged each other. So there's a real palpable sense of relief and a feeling that justice was done. One of these women, Hannah Grundy, she's really the person who's led the charge all the way through this case. She was alerted to the fact that these photos existed online by an anonymous person, and she's the one who collated all of the photographs, took them to the police, and ultimately got the police to investigate. So this has been a huge part of her life for the past 3 years. And I had a chat with her outside court today. Let's have a listen.
It's really, really shocking, honestly, and amazing, obviously. I can't believe it. It felt very healing all being together and sitting down together and being able to hold each other's hands and hug and all of those things. It was very supportive. It was very healing, and it was closure, I think, as well, of a bad 3 years.
Did you get any indication as to why Andrew Hayler did this in the first place?
Yeah, well, this is such a big question, and one that a lot of people are asking, why do men commit crimes like this online? And the court was presented with a report put together by a psychologist. We heard that his offending began in 2020 during the COVID-19 pandemic, at a time when he and many other people in his industry of bartending were facing reduced employment, and it kind of grew out of a combination of boredom and also substance abuse. We also heard a psychological assessment that described him as being someone who binged watched pornography from a young age, that sort of increasingly focused on rough sex and domination, and that potential motivation for Andrew Hayler may have been offsetting feelings of sexual inferiority, and he had been sort of diagnosed with an unspecified paraphilic disorder. That report also placed him at above average risk of sexual reoffending. The judge did acknowledge there was some contrition on his part. We did see him last week get up in court and deliver an apology to the women in the room at the time, some of whom stood up and left because they didn't want to hear it. The judge acknowledged that he's taking part in a rehabilitation program at the moment, but said that there is still work for him to be done to gain a full insight into his offending.
Ruby, thank you.